If you've saved around $2 million for retirement, here's something I've learned over the past 25 years as an advisor. Once people reach a certain level of wealth, their mindset shifts. A millionaire doesn't want to become a non-millionaire, and a multimillionaire has no interest in going backwards either. Because at that level, it's not just about building wealth, it's now about creating and building financial infrastructure. And for many people, $2 million doesn't create certainty. It actually creates a lot of questions because now retirement feels imminent, it feels real, the decision seems to matter more, and the margin for error gets smaller. So instead of asking, can I retire? The question becomes, how do I start to connect all of the financial dots? In fact, for a lot of people, this is the point where retirement also starts to feel more serious. It can be daunting and overwhelming, or it can give you a newfound sense of adventure, depending on how you tackle it. Now you're asking, how do I manage risk and volatility? What if the market drops right after I retire? What if I live longer than I expected? What if healthcare costs continue to soar? How and where do I create income? And what surprises people is this: you can have real money and still feel anxiety. And that's what we're talking about today. We're going to walk you through 3 major shifts that happen when you reach this level of retirement savings and a practical framework that can help turn retirement anxiety into real retirement confidence. What I've seen over the years is that once people get to this point, they run into what I call the millionaire paradox. On paper, the math can say you're in strong shape. You may very well have enough to live comfortably for decades, but emotionally, you can feel more cautious about spending than you ever did before. And this is completely normal. You're not crazy, and you're certainly not alone. There are a few reasons for that. First, the stakes feel bigger now. A significant drop in the market does not feel like some abstract event anymore. That gets your attention in a hurry. Second, the game changes as we head into retirement. For decades, you were playing offense. You accepted risk, volatility. You were contributing, you accepted the dips. You were focused on growth, returns, accumulating. Now nearing retirement, you're moving into defense. Now the question becomes, how do I preserve this? How do I make it last? What about inflation? How do I manage market volatility? And third, remember, another word for retirement is unemployed. So your paycheck matters differently now. That earned income you used to have will be gone. If you're close to retirement, you may only have a handful of working years left before your retirement savings have to do all the heavy lifting. Soon, you will have defined who you are financially for the rest of your life. And that changes your mindset, and it should. The habits that got you here were valuable: staying invested, delaying gratification, aware of financial red flags, planning ahead, staying the course. And those are good habits. But in retirement, those same habits can become barriers if they stop you from actually enjoying the life you spent decades building. And that's why, in my view, the problem usually isn't purely mathematical. A lot of times it's psychological, and it's more of a behavioral finance issue. Research looking across a long stretch of market history has a consistent common denominator. Retirees using conservative withdrawal approaches often do not run out of money. In many cases, they actually end retirement with a significant amount of assets still left over. Take a simple example: a $2 million portfolio using a 4.5% withdrawal rate with about $90,000 a year in withdrawals. Historically, when you take a look at long-term data, that type of portfolio has held up better than people expect. In many cases, it grows rather than shrinks, and yet plenty of retirees still spend far less than they likely could. That creates what researchers call a consumption gap. That is the difference between what you could safely spend and what you actually allow yourself to spend. And that gap matters because that gap represents many missed experiences, postponed dreams, unused freedom, time with family that never comes back, dream trips that you kept putting off, or that dream kitchen that you've always wanted. Generosity you wanted to show but never felt permission to act on. That is exactly what I don't want for people. So let's get into the 3 shifts that matter when you get to this level. Shift number 1, you move from accumulation mode to optimization mode. Let's go back in time. When you had $500,000 saved and invested, the main question was probably, how do I grow and accumulate? How do I invest smarter? How do I allocate properly? Am I maxing out my 401k? What about my Roth? Am I staying disciplined and giving this enough time? At this stage, it was more straightforward. But when you get to $2 million and closer to retirement, growth still matters. It's no longer just the whole story. Now optimization becomes critical. Now you have to think about issues like your tax situation, which investments belong in which accounts, how do I outpace inflation, how do I maintain my lifestyle. Taxable accounts, traditional IRAs, 401ks, Roth accounts, they all play by different rules. Now you have to start thinking about sequence of returns. Where should income come from first? Do you tap taxable assets first? Do you use Roth money? Do you pull from IRAs? These are not small decisions. This is your income plan. This is how you're going to get through a long retirement. And Schwab and Fidelity have both done studies that show that 60 to 70% of pre and post retirees do not have a written financial plan, which proves there's not enough retirees that are prepared. And then there's Roth conversion opportunities. Should you pay some tax now and potentially save some for later? That can make a real difference, especially over time. Let's say, for example, someone has $1.5 million in traditional assets. Now they have another $500,000 in Roth assets. Once required minimum distributions kick in under today's rules, that could force meaningful withdrawals from those traditional accounts, whether the person needs the money or not. That can create unnecessary tax pressure. But if in the years before that, you strategically convert portions of your traditional to a Roth while you're in a lower tax bracket, you may reduce lifetime taxes and potentially leave more tax-efficient money behind to heirs. That is the kind of planning that starts to matter a lot at this level. This is why when someone reaches $2 million or more, we are no longer talking about building wealth. Now we are being intentional on managing our wealth strategically. We are forecasting and are allowing ourselves to see future red flags. At this stage, tax planning is not optional background work. It's a major part of retirement planning. So the first shift is simple. You are no longer accumulating, you are optimizing, you are strategizing, and you are being intentional. Remember that at this level, you are now working with a team of dedicated financial professionals. Shift number 2, you evolve from rules of thumb to real systems. You move from assumptions to processes. A broad rule of thumb is just that, broad assumptions trying to fit the average mold. There is no sophistication or customization. Think about the 4% rule. Target date funds, a simple 60-40 allocation, a basic 3-fund portfolio. And for some, it might work, but when you get into the millions and multi-millions and above, the game changes significantly. Think about the air as you climb higher. It's different, it changes, and so should your money. That is where blanket rules and advice start to show their limits and immaturity. Affluent investors start to feel a gap between what advice they've had in the past as to what they actually need. At this stage, affluent investors crave their own financial infrastructure. They want to better understand how to properly connect all the financial dots to support their lifestyle, outpace inflation, control taxes, travel, become philanthropic, and perform efficient transfers of generational wealth. Not just a generic rule somebody repeats on the internet. More architecture, more framework, more structure. Take spending, for example. Retirement planning is much like putting a puzzle together. The difference is that the puzzle is constantly changing and the environment is more uncontrolled. This is where sophisticated planning and red flags are always considered ahead of time with timely solutions that are deployed proactively. When it comes to income planning, a well-executed income plan recognizes that spending in retirement will not remain flat forever. More than likely, you will be significantly more active early in retirement. Travel is higher, experiences are longer, lifestyle is intact. Midway into retirement, spending usually shifts as priorities do as well. Healthcare costs rise as you age. Healthcare and long-term care inflation is much higher than normal inflation. And this is why running what-if scenarios matters so much. What if inflation runs hotter than expected for several years? What if the market stumbles early in retirement? What if one spouse passes first? You want to stress test these questions before actually living them. This is what creates peace of mind. Another example is rebalancing. A lot of people think in terms of calendar-based rebalancing, if at all. Quarterly, annually, whatever date shows up on the calendar. But a more systematic approach can be much more effective. Instead of rebalancing by the clock, you rebalance when an asset class drifts outside of a tolerance band. That makes the process more intentional. It can also create better opportunities around taxes, including tax loss harvesting. It allows you to be aware of under and over-concentrated positions. That is why I say at this level, financial infrastructure, proactive planning, and a team of financial professionals matter much more than slogans and outdated theories. You don't want your retirement built on guesswork and outdated rules of thumb. You want it built on a framework that can adapt to real life. That is the second shift. You stop relying on generalized formulas and you start building your own financial infrastructure. Shift number 3. You move from scarcity thinking to legacy planning. This is a big one because once you've gotten around to a few $1,000,000 and your spending is reasonable, there's a very good chance that with proper planning, not only could you have enough money for your retirement, but you could also pass on a substantial amount of money left over, possibly even more than what you started retirement with. And if that's the case, the question changes. The question is no longer just, will I have enough? Now the question becomes, what is this money actually for? What do I want it to do? What do I want to accomplish with it? That is where legacy planning becomes important. And legacy planning is not just about heirs. Yes, it can mean children, grandchildren, or leaving it in a smart, tax-efficient way. But legacy can also mean purpose. Maybe it's helping funding a grandchild's education. Maybe it's giving it to causes you care deeply about. Maybe it's about making sure that your spouse feels total confidence and stability if something happens to you. What has been popular as of late is deciding that you want to see generosity happen while you're still alive instead of waiting until after you're gone. You can actually see your gifting at work and helping another person or organization out. But the key is this: when you know your money has a purpose behind simply protecting you from fear, spending often gets easier. Because now you're not just guarding assets, you're aligning your money with meaning. There's a completely different mindset. Once people shift from scarcity thinking to legacy thinking, the spending anxiety they once had often starts to come down. Because now the financial picture becomes fuller. Now the money has a job. Now there is intention behind it. Now let's talk about what I believe the biggest retirement risk really is. It's not just about the market. You can plan and combat market volatility and risk. It's not about inflation either, because you can plan for that too. In my opinion, one of the biggest risks in retirement is regret. And I think this hits a lot harder than people expect. There is a reason end-of-life conversations so often circle back to the same idea. What they often regret is not living more fully while they had their health, their energy, and the opportunity. They wish they had planned for more, invested differently, and paid more attention. Maybe regret looks like not taking the trip with your kids while you still could have. Maybe regret looks like not planning for longevities into your 80s and 90s, but only in your 60s. Maybe regret looks like spending your 60s and 70s worrying so much about money that you never really enjoyed the freedom that you worked for all of those years to create. I have not met many retirees who tell me, I wish I had been even more conservative early in my retirement. But I have seen plenty who wish they could have given themselves permission to enjoy their money sooner, to use it, spend it, enjoy it the way that it was intended. And that really is the point. At $2 million and above, with proper planning, the math often says you can afford to be generous. Generous with yourself, generous with your family, generous with causes you care about. The real question is whether you will give yourself permission to do that. So here's the takeaway. True wealth is not about how much you have. If you are around that $2 million mark, the game has changed. You are no longer trying to grow the pile. Now you need optimization. Now you need processes. You need structure. And when you begin to build and create your very own financial infrastructure, your retirement stops being a series of questions and worries. It now brings a sense of calm, and it starts to feel like the life you've worked so hard to build. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any more questions, please go to myIncomePlan.com. And remember, you only retire once. Let's get it right the first time.